Because the phone get in the way of the screen. All right, beautiful people. Sorry. We're in a couple minutes behind today. Like I said, I was telling my husband about this dream I had. Y'all ever had? Oh, it's crazy. Because he also had a dream. He said he was going to wake me up in the middle of the night and tell me about a dream that he had. Y'all ever, how can I say it? Okay, so what's crazy, I ain't going to tell you the dream, but I'm going to tell you, me and Bella was out at the track yesterday, just walking around, and she was playing. I was praying and just talking to y'all, and I was asking him about a particular thing because I gave you the gist of it. We're talking about renewing our vows, right? So we just kind of threw the idea around a little bit and everything because um, coming up in September, it'll be our 20-year anniversary, right? So we just kind of talked about it, where we wanted to be and, just things like that, right? So, but it really wasn't a really long conversation. We just kind of, played with it a little bit. So that was that conversation the other day. So we was out at the track, and I was just, Bella was playing in the sand over at because in the middle of the field it's a high school field, so they had like long jump pit and stuff like that. So Bella was over there. We stopped for a moment because she wanted to play in the sand over at the long jump thing, right? Good morning, Levon. So I was saying that, and I started thinking about it again, So I was like, I don't know that I want to be like traditional, like people normally do it, So I'm not going to say the detail of what, but we hadn't talked about the detail of it, and we hadn't talked about it being different from like the traditional form where you have like the bridegrooms and bridesmaids and all this. We hadn't really talked about that. We just talked about the idea of doing it since we're coming up on our 20th year anniversary. So when I was out there, I was actually thinking detailed and how I think it might be better based on what I know now, what we know now, try to cater it and do it according to as we've learned in truth and everything, right? So, but here's what was crazy. I ain't gonna give you the detail of it, but here's what's crazy. After that, didn't talk anymore about it. You didn't think nothing about it. Came in the house, me and my husband didn't talk about it. He has a dream about the detail that I was talking to y'all about. I darn it like to fell out the bed this morning. And I'm like, what? Go back. And who? This is what I was talking to y'all about yesterday. Guys, that's one a few minutes later. We was talking about that. He was like, wow. It just like blew my mind. So I was like, Father, I don't know how this is working, but clearly it's working somehow, So yeah, so that's why, y'all. I'm sorry. Okay, so let me fix these screens and everything. So, okay, we gonna probably keep talking about it when when I get off of here today. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. Belinda Brown, Grand Rising, Shalom, Shalom, Mom, Josiah, Shalom. All right, yeah, let's get this adjusted over here and go ahead and pull up the show. Alicia, you said you dreamt about marriages. Man, I'll share more detail with y'all later. Just gotta, I don't know, just gotta talk about this. And I'm just like, it is great. Not that it's crazy, but it's like, did this just really happen? Like I was literally, Father, just talking to you about this yesterday, and there goes my husband, and he had details about the exact thing. Like we hadn't personally discussed the details of what I was talking to y'all about on how to do it in a way that we understand now and what we know life to be and who he is, right? And my husband just started talking. He started when he started talking about his dream. As soon as he mentioned one thing, I said, wait, what? Oh, okay. I can't give y'all too many more details. I'll share it. I'll share it soon, but it's crazy. Not that it needs to be hidden or anything, but we're not done talking about it. So it's just blowing my mind. Okay, now let's start with the Shema. The Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 3. It is Saturday. Happy Saturday, everybody. March the 6th, 2021, day 94 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 763. And that is without the feast days, Sabbath days added in, or the normal weekly feast days added in. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, He is one God, and you shall love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that He might preserve us alive, as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God, as He has commanded us. All right, beautiful people. All right, so let's now jump on over here to Joshua chapter 13. We're going to roll right on through this, and then we'll hop over into the legends of the Jews. The land yet to be conquered. When Joshua was an old man, Yahuwah said to him, "You are growing old, and much land remains to be conquered. This is the territory that remains: all the regions of the Philistines and the Gershurites, and the larger territory of the Canaanites, extending from the stream of Shihor on the border of Egypt northward to the boundary of Ekron. It includes the territory of the 5 Philistine rulers of Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron. The land of the Abites in the south also remains to be conquered. In the north, the following area has not yet been conquered: all the land of the Canaanites, including Mira, which belongs to the Sidonians, stretching northward to Aphek on the border of the Amorites, the land of the Gibeonites, and all of Lebanon, and all the Lebanon mountain area to the east, from Baal Gad below Mount Hermon to Lebo Hamath, and all the hill country from Lebanon to Misrephoth, Maine, including all the land of the Sidonians. I myself will drive these people out of the land ahead of the Israelites. I read it again. I myself would drive these people out of the land ahead of the Israelites. So be sure to give this land to Israel as a special possession, just as I have commanded you. Include all this territory as Israel's possession when you divide this land among the 9 tribes and the half tribe of Manasseh. Half the tribe of Manasseh and the tribes of Reuben and Gad had already received their grants of land on the east side of the Jordan, for Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, had previously assigned this land to them. Their territory extended from Arrow on the edge of the Arnon Gorge, including the town in the middle of the gorge, to the plain beyond Medeba as far as Dibion. It also includes all the towns of King Sihon of the Amorites, who had reigned in Heshbon, and extended as far as the borders of Ammon. It included Gilead, the territory of the kingdoms of Geshur and Makkah, and all Mount Hermon, and all Bashan as far as Selach, and all the territory of King Og of Bashan, who had reigned in Ashtaroth and Idri. King Og was the last of the Rephaites, for Moses had attacked them and driven them out. My screen went dark on Facebook. Make sure. Okay. I know my phone is charged. Okay. Hold on, let me go back up here. But the Israelites failed to drive out the people of Geshur and Makkah, so they continued to live among the Israelites to this day. Moses did not assign any allotment of land to the tribe of Levi. Instead, as Yahuwah commanded them, their allotment came from the offerings burned on the altar to Yahuwah, the God of Israel. Moses had assigned the following area to the clans of the tribe of Reuben. Their territory extended from Ar on the edge of the Arnon Gorge, including the town in the middle of the gorge to the plain beyond Medeba. It includes Heshbon and the other towns on the plain, Dibon, Bamath, Bel, Beth, Bel, Meon, Jahaz, Kedemoth, Mapath, Kiriatham, Sibmah, Zereth, Shahar, on the hill above the valley, Beth Peor, the slopes of Pisgah, and Beth Jeshimoth. The land of Reuben also included all the towns of the plain and the entire kingdom of Sihon. Sihon was the Amorite king who had reigned in Heshbon and was killed by Moses along with the leaders of Midian, Ivi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, princes living in that region who were allied with Sihon. The Israelites had also killed Balaam, son of Beor, who used magic to tell the future. The Jordan River marked the western boundary for the tribe of Reuben. The towns and their surrounding villages in this area were given as a homeland to the clans of the tribe of Reuben. Moses had assigned the following area to the clans of the tribe of Gad. Their territory included Jazer, all the towns of Gilead, and half of the land of Ammon, as far as the town of Ar, just west of Rabbah. It extended from Heshbon to Ramath, Mizpeh, and Betonim, and from Mahanaim to the territory of Lodabar, and the valley where Beth Haram, Beth Nimrah, Sukkoth, Zaphon, and the rest of the kingdom of King Sihon of Heshbon. The western boundary ran along the Jordan River, extended as far as the tip of the Sea of Galilee, and then turned eastward. The towns of their surrounding villages in this area were given as a homeland to the clans of the tribe of Gad. Moses had assigned the following area to the clans of the half tribe of Manasseh. Their territory extended from Mahanaim, including all of Bashan, all the former kingdom of Og, and the 60 towns of Jair and Bashan. It also includes half of Gilead and King Og's royal cities of Ashtaroth and Edrei. All this was given to the clans of the descendants of Machir, who was Manasseh's son. These are the allotments Moses had made while he was on the plains of Moab, across the Jordan River, east of Jericho. But Moses gave no allotment of land to the tribe of Levi, for Yahuwah, the God of Israel, had promised that he himself would be their allotment. All right, y'all. Let's go to the next chapter, Joshua chapter 14. The remaining tribes of Israel received land in Canaan as allotted by Eleazar the priest, Joshua the son of Nun, and the tribal leaders. These 9.5 tribes received their grants of land by means of sacred lots in accordance with Yahuwah's command through Moses. Moses had already given a grant of land to the 2.5 tribes on the east side of the Jordan River, but he had given the Levites no such allotment. The descendants of Joseph had become 2 separate tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim, and the Levites were given no land at all, only towns to live in with surrounding pasture lands for their livestock and all their possessions. So the land was distributed in strict accordance with Yahuwah's command to Moses. Shayla, hey girl, hey, that's why I was thinking about you, sis. A delegation from the tribe of Judah, led by Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, came to Joshua at Gilgal. Caleb said to Joshua, remember what Yahuwah said to Moses, the man of God, about you and me when we were at Kadesh Barnea. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land of Canaan. I returned and gave an honest report, but my brothers who went with me frightened the people from entering into the promised land. For my part, I wholeheartedly followed Yahuwah my God. So that day, Moses solemnly promised me, the land of Canaan on which you were just walking will be your grant of land and that of your descendants forever, because you wholeheartedly follow Yahuwah my God. Now, as you can see, Yahuwah has kept me alive and well, as he promised for all these 40 years since Moses made this promise, even while Israel wandered in the wilderness. Today, I am 85 years old. I am as strong now as I was when Moses sent me on that journey, and I can still travel and fight as well as I could then. So give me the hill country that Yahuwah promised me. You will remember that as scouts, we found the descendants of Anak living there in great walled towns. But if Yahuwah is with me, I will drive them out of the land, just as Yahuwah said. So Joshua blessed Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, and gave Hebron to him as his portion of land. Hebron still belongs to the descendants of Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, because he wholeheartedly followed Yahuwah, the God of Israel. Previously, Hebron had been called Kiriath Arba. It had been named after Arba, a great hero of the descendants of Anak, and the land had rest from war. All right, y'all, last chapter for today, Joshua chapter 15. The allotment for the clans of the tribe of Judah reached southward to the border of Edom as far south as the wilderness of Zin. The southern boundary began at the south bay of the Dead Sea, ran south of Scorpion Pass into the wilderness of Zin, and then went south of Kadesh Barnea to Hezron. Then it went up to Adar, where it turned toward Karka. From there, it passed to Amazon until it finally reached the brook of Egypt, which it followed to the Mediterranean Sea. This was their southern boundary. I just thought about something. Okay. The southern boundary extended. I was thinking about the map. Yeah, I just thinking about something. Okay. I need to look at something before I say that. The eastern boundary extended along the Dead Sea to the mouth of the Jordan River. The northern boundary began at the bay where the Jordan River empties into the Dead Sea, went up from there to Beth Hagla, then proceeded north of Beth Arba to the stone of Bohan. Bohan was Reuben's son. From that point, it went through the valley of Acre to Dibir, turning north toward Gilgal, which is across from the slopes of Aduman on the south side of the valley. There, the boundary extended to the springs at En Shemesh and on to En Rogel. The boundary then passed through the valley of Ben Hinnom along the southern slopes of the Jebusites, where the city of Jerusalem is located. Then it went west to the top of the mountain above the valley of Hinnom and on up to the northern end of the valley of Rephaim. From there, the boundary extended, extended from the top of the mountain to the spring at the waters of Nephtoah, and from there to the towns on Mount Ephraim. Then it turned toward Bela, that is, Kiriath Jearim. The boundary circled west to Bela of Mount Seir, passed along to the town of Kizlon on the northern slope of Mount Jearim, and went down to Beth Shemesh and on to Timnah. The boundary then proceeded to the slope of the hill north of Ekron, where it turned toward Shikharon and Mount Bela. It passed Jabneel and ended at the Mediterranean Sea. The western boundary was the shoreline of the Mediterranean Sea. These are the boundaries for the clans of the tribe of Judah. Yahuwah commanded Joshua to assign some of Judah's territory to Caleb, the son of Jephunneh. So Caleb was given the town of Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, which had been named after Anak's ancestor. Caleb drove out 3 groups of Anakites, the descendants of Shishai, Ahiman, and Talmi, the sons of Anak. From there, he went to fight against the people living in the town of Dibir, formerly called Kiriath Sefer. Caleb said, I will give my daughter Aksah in marriage to the one who attacks and captures Kiriath Sefer. Othniel, the son of Caleb's brother Kenaz, was the one who conquered it. So Aksah became Othniel's wife. When Asa married Othniel, she urged him to ask her father for a field. As she got down off her donkey, Caleb asked her, "What is the matter?" She said, "Give me another gift. You have already given me the land in the Negev. Now please give me springs of water too." So Caleb gave her the upper and lower springs. This was the homeland allotted to the clans of the tribe of Judah. The towns of Judah situated along the borders of Edom in the extreme south were Kabzeel, Eder, Jagur, Kenah, Dimona, Adam. Sorry, I might screw some of these names up, y'all, so just bear with me. Give me a moment. Okay. Dimona, Adada, Kadesh, Hazar, Ithnan, Ziph, Telem, Bela, Hazar, Hadattah, Kiriath Hezron, that is Hazar, Amam, Shema, Molada, Hazar Gada, Heshmon, Beth Pelet, Hazar Shul, Beersheba, Biziathia, Bela, Lim, Ezim, El Tolad, Kesel, Horma, Ziklag, Madmana, Sansana, Labo, Shilhim, Ain, and Rimmon. 29 towns with their surrounding villages. The following towns suited in the western foothills were also given to Judah: Eshtaol, Zorah, Ashna, Zenoah, En Ganim, Tapua, Enam, Jarmuth, Adullam, Soko, Azekah, Sharim, Adithaim, Gedera, and Gederothim, 14 towns with their surrounding villages. Also included were Zenan, Hadashah, Migdal Gad, Delin, Mizpeh, Joktheel, Lachish, Bozkath, Eglon, Kaban, La Mam, Kidlish, Gederoth, Beth Dagon, Nama, and Makkedah, 16 towns with their surrounding villages. Besides these, there were Libnah, Ether, Ashan, Iptha, Ashna, Nazib, Killa, Akzib, and Marishah, 9 towns with their surrounding villages. How many of y'all, if y'all was reading this by yourself, y'all be like, yep, and start back with the story, pick back up. Y'all just skip over. Don't feel bad. I used to do it all the time. But I realized I gotta stop doing that because it's literally a map. And it helps you with the genealogies and putting different things together. I realized that the more research I started doing, right? Okay. The territory of the tribe of Judah also included Ekron and its surrounding settlements and villages. From Ekron, the boundary extended west and included the towns near Ashdod with their surrounding villages. It also included Ashdod with its surrounding settlements and villages, and Gaza with its settlements and villages as far as the brook of Egypt and along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Judah also received the following towns in the hill country: Shamir, Jatir, Soko, Dana, Kiriath Sana, that is Debir, Anab, Eshtamoa, Anim, Goshen, Holon, and Gilo, 11 towns with their surrounding villages. Also included were the towns of Arab, Duma, Eshan, Janim, Beth Tapua, Aphekah, Humta, Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, and Zior, 9 towns with their surrounding villages. Besides these, there were Maon, Carmel, Ziph, Judah, Jezreel, Jotham, Zanoah, Cain, Gibeah, and Timnah, 10 towns with their surrounding villages. In addition, there were Halhul, Beth Zur, Gedor, Merath, Beth Anan, and El-Tekan, 6 towns with their surrounding villages. There were also Kiriath Baal, that is Kiriath Jearim, and Rabbah, 2 towns with their surrounding villages. In the wilderness, there were the towns of Beth Araba, Midden, Sekaka, Nibshan, the city of Salt, and Engedi, 6 towns with their surrounding villages. But the tribe of Judah could not drive out the Jebusites who lived in the city of Jerusalem, so the Jebusites live there among the people of Judah to this day. All right, beautiful people. So that was the last chapter of Joshua for today. That was Joshua 13, 14, and 15. So let's go ahead and hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews. Joanne, shalom, shalom. And we're going to pick up on page 365 where we left off at. Okay. Moses' last campaign. Remember, it is, if you have a smaller book, and by this time y'all should be keeping y'all point anyway. It's the third volume, the 6th chapter, and the title is Moses' Last Campaign. We're going to get to some of this today. We might. No, we ain't going to get to it today. Nope. I was thinking we was going to start getting to the part where Moses about to pass away. He trying to ask y'all to let him live to go into the promised land. Okay. Moses' last campaign. Balaam's prophecy. He shall not lie down until he eat of the prey and drink the blood of the slain was very quickly fulfilled. Shortly before his death, before he lay down to everlasting sleep, it was granted Moses to rejoice in the death of Balaam and the 5 Midianite kings allied to him. Israel's sinful profanation at Shittim, occasioned by Balaam's wicked advice, sorely smote Moses' heart. Yahuwah had appointed Moses as Lord of the angels, who through fire and cloud had to step aside to make room for him to pass. Yea, at his appearance they arose from their seats to do him honor. As he had power over the angels, so did he rule the sea, which he clove at will and then commanded to resume its former guise, and the treasures of hell which he employed to send hell over the Egyptians. Now this man who was sovereign over the angels and over the forces of nature could only weep when Israel committed whoredom with the daughters of Moab and Midian. To comfort Moses, Yahuwah now said, as truly as thou livest, thou shalt not depart out of this world until thou shalt have avenged those who tempted Israel to sin. Avenge the children of Israel of the Midianites. Afterward shalt thou be gathered unto thy people. Yahuwah at the same time reproached Moses for his despair and lack of energy at Shittim, saying, when all the tribes of Israel, except the tribe of Levi, were against thee, thou did not then lack courage to stand up against all the people on the account of the worship of the golden calf. How much more then at Shittim, when all Israel, save only one tribe, the tribe of Simeon, were on thy side, should thou have proven thyself sufficiently strong to keep back the sinners from their sin? When Moses received the command to wage war upon the people that had tempted Israel to sin, he said to Yahuwah, yesterday did thou say to me, vex not Moab, and now thou sayest, avenge the children of Israel? Yahuwah, however, replied, when I said, vex not Moab, I named these people after their grandsire, the son of Lot. Grandsire is grandfather. When I said, vex not Moab, I named these people after their grandsire, the son of Lot, but not that through their own fault they have lost the claim to kind treatment from Israel. I shall no longer think of their grandsire, Abraham's kinsmen, but shall call them the Midianites, they that lost their claim. Lot's descendants, but I shall call them Midianites, they that lost their claim. Lot's descendants now not only had no further claims to exemption, but a command was given to Moses to treat them with still greater hostility than the other nations. Until then, it had been Israel's duty not to fight against a city of the heathens unless they had first proclaimed peace to it, and the heathens had refused to accept it. But now they were instantly to proceed to hostility, whereas they had formerly been prohibited from destroying the trees that surrounded the city. They were now ruthlessly to destroy all that lay in their path. Well, we're going to give y'all a chance. We can do this peacefully. And it's up to them. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this peacefully. We don't want no smoke with y'all. But if you give them a warning and they decide to carry on in their foolishness and come against you in violence, it's no holds barred. Let's go back and read it again. Until then, it had been Israel's duty not to fight against a city of the heathens unless they had first proclaimed peace to it, and the heathens had refused to accept it. But now they were instantly to proceed to hostility, and whereas they had formerly been prohibited from destroying the trees that surrounded the city, they were now ruthlessly to destroy all that lay in their path. This wrath of Yahuwah against those who had tempted Israel to sin was justified. For the tempter to sin is him of this world. The tempter to sin is him of this. The tempter to sin is him of this world alone, but he that tempts another deprives him of this world and the world beyond. Two nations, the Egyptians and the Edomites, attacked Israel with a sword, but Yahuwah nevertheless said, Thou shalt not harbor an Edomite, thou shalt not harbor an Egyptian. The Moabites and Ammonites, on the other hand, tempted Israel to sin. Hence, Yahuwah's word concerning them was as follows: An Ammonite or Moabite shall not enter into the assembly of Yahuwah, even to the 10th generation. Israel received the command to make war upon the Midianites at the same time as that to fight the Moabites. But whereas Moses at once waged war against Midian, it was not until David's time that a relentless war was waged against Moab. There were several reasons why the Midianites were to receive their punishment before the Moabites. Firstly, Moab's hatred against Israel was not quite without foundation. For although the Israelites had not attacked them in war, they still had inspired them with great fear by pillaging the Moabite region. Hence, the Moabites tried every means to be rid of Israel. Midian, on the other hand, had no cause for undertaking hostilities against Israel, and yet they not only joined the Moabites, but outdid them in their hatred against Israel. Furthermore, Moab wanted to kill Israel, but Midian wanted to tempt them to sin, which is worse than death. The delay in punishing Moab also corresponds in the other ways to Yahuwah's plan, for the Moabite Ruth was destined to become the mother of the dynasty of David. Hence, Yahuwah said to Israel, Wait yet a while in this matter of the war against the Moabites. I have lost something valuable among them. As soon as I have found it, ye shall avenge yourself of them. Yahuwah indicated that the war waged against Midian would be Moses' last in these words: Avenge the children of Israel of the Midianites. Afterward shalt thou be gathered unto thy people. The connection between the war and Moses' death is as follows. When Yahuwah announced to Moses that he was to die on this side of the Jordan, Moses implored Yahuwah with the words, O Lord of the world, is it right that death should soon overtake me, that have seen thy ways, thy actions, and thy path? Yahuwah replied, Moses, if a long life were better for men, surely I should not then have permitted thy ancestors to taste of death. But it is better for thee if thou art taken from this world than if thou wert to remain in it. Moses was not, however, satisfied with this answer from Yahuwah, whereupon Yahuwah said, Well then, thou mayest live many years longer. Yea, thou shalt even to 1,000 years. But know thou that Israel will not then conquer their foes, and that Midian will not be brought under their yoke. In this way, Moses was made to yield to Yahuwah, but he thought, whether I die today or tomorrow, whether I die today or tomorrow matters little, for death will come to me at last. I would rather Israel conquer their foes and bring Midian under their yoke than I should live longer. Yahuwah therefore bade Moses avenge Israel of the Midianites if he was thereupon ready to die. Moses then thought, I know that if I were now to go into battle against the Midianites, the people would declare that I wish for my own death, since Yahuwah made it dependent upon the punishing of the Midianites, and my life is assured me as long as ever I wish to put it off. This consideration did not, however, determine him, for fully aware that his enterprise of war would hasten his death, he nevertheless set about the execution of this war as soon as Yahuwah commanded him. Wherever the execution of a divine command or the possibility of furthering Israel's cause was concerned, Moses gave no thought to himself, even though it touched his life. Not so Joshua. When it came to Canaan, he thought, if I wage an incessant war upon the Canaanites, I shall certainly die as soon as I shall have conquered them. For Moses also died immediately after his conquest of Midian. He therefore proceeded very slowly in his conquest of the Holy Land so that he might be sure of a long life. But many thought, however many thought there may be in man's heart, Yahuwah's words, Yahuwah's words prevail. And whereas Joshua hoped to become very aged, he died 10 years before the time Yahuwah originally allotted to him. For although he would otherwise have attained his master's age, he now died at the age of 110. The complete annihilation of Midian. Whereas Moses, disregarding the expected consequences of the war upon himself, gladly went into battle, Israel did not want to obey his summons to war. The people of whom Moses had on one occasion said, "They be almost ready to stone me," when they now learned that their leader Moses was to die at the end of this war, tried to evade it, saying that they preferred to forego impending victory rather than to lose their leader, and each one hid himself so as not to be picked out for this war. Yahuwah therefore bade Moses cast lots to decide their going into battle, and those whose lots were drawn had to follow the call to arms, even against their will. Moses' summons to battle was as follows: Arm ye men from among ye for the war, and execute Yahuwah's vengeance on Midian. Moses spoke of Yahuwah's revenge, whereas Yahuwah designated this war against Midian as Israel's revenge. For Moses said to Yahuwah, Lord of the world, if we had worshipped the stars and planets, the Midianites should not have hated us. They hated us only on the account of the Torah and the commandments that thou hast given us. Hence thou must avenge thyself of them. Moses did not in person lead the war against Midian, for he was mindful of the proverb, cast no stone into the well from which thou hast drawn water. And he who was a fugitive from Egypt had sought refuge in Midian, did not wish to make war upon that land. He relinquished the leadership of the people to Phinehas, for he that beginneth a good deed shall also complete it. And it was Phinehas who had begun Yahuwah's war against the Midianites by slaying the princess Cosbi, Zimri's mistress. Hence, the task of completing this war fell to his lot. Phinehas was a descendant of Joseph, had moreover a special reason for wishing to take revenge upon the Midianites as those who had been Midianites who had sold Joseph as a slave in Egypt. The forces under Phinehas' command consisted of 36,000 men, 1/3 to take active part in the battle, 1/3 to guard the baggage, and 1/3 to pray, whose duty it was in the course of battle to implore Yahuwah to lend victory to the warriors of Israel. Moses passed on to Phinehas not only the holy ark, which Israel always takes into battle, but also the Urim and the Thummim, that he might, if necessary, consult Yahuwah. Outside of this, Phinehas had also received the gold plate of the mitre from the priest's forehead, for Moses said to him, the knave Balaam will by means of his sorceries fly into the air, and even enable the 5 Midianite kings to fly with him. Therefore ye shall hold up to them the plate of pure gold, upon which is engraved Yahuwah's name, and they will fall to the earth. They did as Moses commanded, and truly Balaam and the 5 kings fell to the earth. They then executed Balaam according to the 4 forms prescribed by the Hebrew laws. They hanged him, kindled a fire beneath the gallows, struck off his head with a sword, and then dropped him from the gallows into the fire below. Although Israel undertook the war against Midian upon Yahuwah's bidding to take vengeance for the wrong that had been done to them, still, their method of warfare was most humane. They attacked the cities of the Midianites from these 3 sides only, so as not entirely to cut off flight. Victory was on the side of Israel, into whose possession fell the cities with all their temples, idols, and palaces. The same fate overtook all the kings of Midian. All were slain, just as all had made a common cause of the wish to destroy Israel. Balaam, who had come to Midian from his home in Mesopotamia in order to receive his reward for his counsel, not to fight Israel, but to tempt them to sin, instead of a reward, met with death at the hands of the Hebrews. The gruesome end of Balaam. This arch magician at first tried to escape Israel's power by sorcery, but when he saw Phinehas, the leaders of the hosts of Israel, he flew into the air, a feat which he accomplished by magic arts, but particularly through the assistance of his wizard sons, Jannes and Jambres. At the sight of Balaam flying high in the air, Phinehas shouted to his army, "Is there anyone among us who is able to fly after this villain?" The Danite Zela, a past master of the arts of sorcery, followed this summons and flew into the air. Balaam, however, surpassed him and took a path in the air on which Zela could not follow. And after the former had soared through 5 different layers of air, he had quite vanished from Zela's kin, who knew not what to do. Phinehas, however, came to his aid. By means of a magical invocation, he dispelled the clouds that covered Balaam, and then Zaliah forced Balaam to descend to the earth and appeared before Phinehas. He began to implore Phinehas to spare his life, promising never to try to curse Israel. But Phinehas replied, "Art not thou the Aramean Laban who tried to destroy our father Jacob? Then thou did pass on to Egypt to destroy Jacob's seed. And when they removed from Egypt, thou didst incite the wicked Amalek to harass us, and not thou did attempt to curse Israel. But when thou sawest that thy endeavor to curse them was without avail, since Yahuwah would not hear thee, thou gavest Balak the despicable advice to deliver up the daughters of his land to prostitution, and thereby to tempt Israel to sin, and were in part successful, for 24,000 Israelites died in consequence of their sins with the daughters of Moab. In vain, therefore, thou plead that thy life be spared." He then ordered Zillah to kill Balaam, admonishing him, however, to be sure not to kill him through the holy name of Yahuwah, as it does not benefit so great a sinner to meet his death in such a way. Zillah now tried in vain to kill Balaam, for through his magic wiles he was proof against every weapon, until Phinehas at last gave Zillah a sword on both sides, of which was engraved a serpent with the words, "Kill him with that to which he belongs. Through this he will die." And Balaam with this sword let me go back. Zela now tried in vain to kill Balaam, for through his magic wiles he was proof against every weapon, until Phinehas at last gave Zela a sword on both sides, of which was engraved a serpent with the words, "Kill him with that to which he belongs. Through this he will die." And with this sword Balaam was killed. His corpse was not burned, but his bones rotted, and from then arose several pieces of harmful snakes that bring disaster to human beings, and even the worms that devoured his flesh turned into snakes. The magicians made use of these snakes for 3 different types of enchantment. For the heads, the bodies, and the tails had each a different effect. One of the questions that the Queen of Sheba put to Solomon was how to withstand these 3 different kinds of enchantment, and the wise king knew even this secret, which he imparted to her. And you will see that if you read that book. It's like I got 2 books of Solomon. It's the Odes of Solomon, and it's there are multiple. I only have 2, but in one of them, and I think it's recorded. I'll post it here today. When he met with the Queen of Sheba, and she was going through asking him all these questions, and I saw that question in there. Hold on. Share book of Solomon, and I think I may have shared it before with Queen of Sheba questions. If I'm not mistaken, I may have shared it before. I didn't bring that part out, but I'm sure I shared that particular. I think I shared both of them before. Okay, but anyway, I'll do it. I'll save it. Okay, let me go back up here. His corpse was not buried, but his bones rotted, and from then arose several pieces of harmful snakes that bring disaster to human beings, and even the worms that devour his flesh were turned into snakes. The magicians made use of these snakes for 3 different types of enchantment. For the heads, the bodies, and the tails had each a different effect. One of the questions that the Queen of Sheba put to Solomon was how to withstand these 3 different kinds of enchantment, and the wise king knew even this secret, which he then imparted to her. 46 minutes. Okay, y'all. Yeah, and if y'all did not know, magic is still being used today. Just because you ain't seen it and you have not been exposed to it, although I'm quite sure you have been and you just don't know it. But as I go through and I read some of these things and I'm learning about some of this stuff and some of the incantations they were doing, I can see some of these, let's just call them magical spells being done in different places. And it will blow your friggin' mind to know that some pastors, out of some of these pastors are using magic over their congregation. It will blow your mind to know how many, even here in America, are doing that to their people. And their people are none the wiser. Like when you learn about it, it's easy to spot and pick out. I'm just like, whoa, what are they doing? Look, okay, that's all I'm gonna say about this right now. The victorious return from the war. After the close of the campaign against Midian, the warriors returned with rich spoils to the camp of Israel, but they were such pious and honorable men that they did not lay claim to the booty, but rendered it all up so that it might be impartially divided among all, as they were honest and conscientious, as they were honest and conscientious in their relations between man and man. So likewise were they very strict in their observance of religious statutes. Throughout the time of war, not a single one of them neglected even the slightest religious ceremony, were it only to put on the phylactery of the forehead before that of the arm. But they were especially careful never again to be tempted by the Midianite women. If they entered into a house to take its treasures from it, they did so in pairs, one blackening the faces of the women and the other seizing their ornaments. Like, cover them up. We don't need to look at none of them, right? Because they start using their beauty. Hey, cover them up, blacken their faces. Going 2 by 2. One black in the face, another get the treasures. Hey, keep each other focused. Let's go. 2 by 2. Let's go. We out of here. In vain. Hold on. Let me go back. Throughout the time of war, not a single one of them neglected even the slightest religious ceremony, were only to put on the phylactery of the forehead before that of the arm. But they were especially careful never again to be tempted by the Midianite women. If they entered into a house to take treasures from it, they did so in pairs, one blackening the faces of the women and the other seizing their ornaments. In vain would the Midianite women cry, "Are we not the creatures of God, and thus ye treat and that ye treat us thus?" Whereupon the Israelites would say, "Were ye not the cause that so many of us found their death? Justly, therefore, they could these pious men say to Moses, Thy servants have taken the sum of the men of war which are under our charge, and not one among us has committed a sin or an unchaste action. We have therefore brought the Lord's oblation to make atonement for our souls." Moses thereupon said in surprise, "Ye did contradict yourself. What need of atonement is there if no man among you is guilty of sin?" There's no need for atonement if you're living righteous and holy, right? Yahuwah said, "I do not desire sacrifice. I desire obedience." Moses just said it. He said, "You're mistaken. There is no atonement that's needed if no sin is committed." Let me read that again. Moses, there. Hold on, let me go back to what they said. Hold on. Justly, therefore, could these pious men say to Moses, Thy servants have taken the sum of the men of war which are under our charge, and not one among us had committed a sin or an unchaste action. We have therefore brought Yahuwah's oblation to make atonement for our souls. Moses thereupon said in surprise, "You contradict yourself. What need of atonement is there if no man among you is guilty of sin?" They replied, "It is true, our teacher Moses. 2 by 2 did we approach the women, one blackening their faces and the other taking off their earrings. But even though we committed no sin with the Midianite women, still the heat of passion was kindled in us when we took hold of the women, and therefore by an offering do we seek to make atonement." Wow. They said, look, although we didn't sin, we felt the nature rising up. And so for that, even though we didn't commit it, we want to offer atonement. Even though we didn't do it, we felt the heat of passion rising up in us when we was in here. And none of we ain't actually do it though, but we was thinking about it, but we didn't. We came on out and we didn't sin physically, but we felt it rising up on the inside of us. And so, and y'all, that's how it starts. Because if you're not strong physically to keep going and not actually enter into the physical sin, you can feel it rise, the passion rising up on the inside. That was notable. They would even say that. They say, even though we didn't, we felt it rising in us. And so for this, we want to offer atonement. Man, that's power. That's integrity and character right there. Well, I'm telling you. Hold on, look. Let me read it again. Justly, therefore, could these pious men say to Moses, Thy servants have taken the sum of the men of war which are under our charge, and not one among us had committed a sin or an unchaste action. We have therefore brought Yahuwah's oblation to make atonement for our souls. Moses thereupon said in surprise, Ye contradict yourself. What need of atonement is there if no man among you is guilty of sin? They replied, It is true, our teacher Moses. 2 by 2 did we approach the women, one blackening their faces and the other taking off their earrings. But even though we committed no sin with the Midianite women, still the heat of passion was kindled in us when we took hold of the women, and therefore by an offering do we seek to make atonement. Moses thereupon set out to praise them, saying, Even the common men from among you are filled with good and pious deeds. For a man that was under conditions that enabled him to sin but controlled himself had done a pious deed, not to speak of the pious and chaste men among you, whose pious deeds are legion. How many of us can say that? Not everybody can say that we found ourselves in a situation that gave us opportunity to sin, but still we overcame that. How many of us were strong enough to run away like Joseph did, right? We may fall into it the first couple of times, not giving a reason, not saying, oh, the first couple of times I got to get it right. No, because from the very first time, Joseph did not at once fall into it. He constantly ran away from this woman. Not one time was it said about Joseph that, oops, I slipped, the heat of passion caught me, and this time I just couldn't fight it off. No, even to almost his almost losing his life, did he run from the sin. He said, how can I do this thing against my God and against my master? You are his wife. You do not belong to me, right? These, I ain't going to say they're few and far in between. We probably just don't know them. But they are there. Just like there are women also. When you find yourself in a situation that could possibly cause you to sin, you got to run, you got to close your eyes, you got to stop going to places. Like if you go into the gym and you feel the heat of passion rising in you, and somebody may give you this, you got to you got to cancel your gym membership, especially if you are, it don't even matter if you're attached to another knot, more so if you are married. But even if you're single, you shouldn't be doing things where you're giving your body. You should only be giving your body to your mate, right? Your mate that you've chosen for life. That's how Yahuwah set it up. That's how Yahuwah set it up. Although people ain't really following it, I'm just saying, it from what we see, if we would believe all that the media puts in front of us, it's like nobody can control themselves. It's like if it feels good, do it. We got to do it. That's so good. Let me just read this again, y'all. Hold on, we're gonna go on. We're at 55 minutes. Look, justly therefore could these pious men say to Moses, thy servants have taken the sum of the men of war which are under our charge, and not one among us had committed a sin or an unchaste action. We have therefore brought Yahuwah's oblation to make atonement for our souls. Moses thereupon said in surprise, you contradict yourself. What need of atonement is there if no man among you is guilty of sin? They replied, it is true, our teacher Moses. 2 by 2 did we approach the women, blackening their faces, and the other taking off their earrings. But even though we committed no sin with the Midianite women, still the heat of passion was kindled in us when we took hold of these women, and therefore by an offering do we seek to make atonement. Moses thereupon set out to praise them, saying, even the common men among you are filled with good and pious deeds. For a man that was under conditions that enabled him to sin, but controlled himself, had done a pious deed. Not to speak of the pious and chaste men among you, whose pious deeds are legion. As among those who had been slain in Midian, there was a Hebrew apostate. The warriors were polluted and hence might not enter the camp, but had to stay without. Moses, in his meekness, did not, however, wait for them to come to him, but hastened to them. When, however, he heard that they had killed only men, but not the women, his wrath was kindled against the leaders of the army. For upon the leaders falls the blame for the faults of the people. He reproached them, pointing out to them that it had been the women who had really brought disaster upon Israel at Shittim. But Phinehas replied, our teacher Moses, we acted according to thy instructions. Thou did bid us only avenge ourselves of the Midianites, but made us not mention of the women of Midian. Moses then ordered them to execute all the women of the Midianites that were ripe for marriage, but spare the young girls, in order to determine the difference in age. All were led past the gold plate of the mitre on the high priest's forehead, and this had the effect of making those who had been doomed to death grow pale. In punishment for Yahuwah's outburst of anger, in punishment for Moses' outburst of anger, Yahuwah caused him to forget to communicate to the soldiers outside the camp the laws of purification. These were then announced by Eleazar, Aaron's son. It was not, however, proper for him to pronounce a law in the presence of his teacher Moses, and he was accordingly punished for his lack of reverence to his teacher Moses. Yahuwah had previously said that whenever Joshua wanted to inquire of Yahuwah, he was to stand before Eleazar the priest and inquire of him by judgment of the Urim and the Thummim. But this did not come about. In all his long career, Joshua had no need of asking Eleazar's counsel, so that the latter lost the honor that had been intended from him. The occasion that led to the war against Midian had been Israel's seduction by the Midianite women. But these had succeeded only by having first intoxicated the sinners with wine. Phinehas, to make sure that this might not be repeated in the future, put the earthly as well as the heavenly ban upon all those who should drink wine of the heathens, for the latter used it only as libations to their idols for an immoral purpose, for immoral purposes. In pronouncing this ban, he called upon the ineffable name and upon the holy writing of the two tablets against its transgressors. Let's go back and read that again. The occasion that led to the war against Midian had been Israel's seduction by the Midianite women, but these had succeeded only by having first intoxicating the sinners with wine. Phineas had to make sure that this might not be repeated in the future, put the earthly as well as the heavenly ban upon all those who should drink the wine of the heathens. For the latter used it only as libations to their idols for immoral purposes. In pronouncing this ban, he called upon the ineffable name and upon the holy writing of the two tables against its transgressors. Okay, we're gonna read this next section. It's Saturday anyway. Y'all got a few more minutes. Keep reading. Look, I think I'm gonna read these next. Oh, I might not be able to read this third section. We'll see. Let's go. Okay. Wealth that brings destruction. Yahuwah gave three gifts to the world: wisdom, strength, and wealth. If they come from Yahuwah, they are a blessing. Otherwise, they bring ruin. The world had two great sages, Balaam among the Gentiles and Ahithophel. Ahithophel from among the Hebrews. But both of these, on account of their wisdom, lost this world as well as the world beyond. There are two great heroes in the world, Samson in Israel and Goliath among the Gentiles, but both met death on account of their strength. There were two wealthy men in the world, Korah among the Hebrews and Haman among the Gentiles. Both perished on account of their wealth. A similar fate overtook 2.5 tribes that stayed on the hither side of Jordan. These had grown very rich in cattle through their spoils of the Midianites, and therefore preferred the pasture land on hither side of the Jordan as their inheritance. But later on, their wealth brought them destruction, because choosing on their brethren, they were afterwards the first that were driven from their dwelling place into exile. How intent these people were upon their possessions is shown in the words with which they presented their wish to Moses, saying, "We will build sheepfolds here for our cattle and cities for our little ones," showing that they rated the cattle higher than their children, for they thought of the animals before they considered their children. Moses did not indeed call them to account for this, but showed them in unmistakable words that it was their duty to first consider men, then animals, by saying in his reply to these tribes, excuse me, "Build you cities for your little ones and folds for your sheep." The land which these tribes had selected was indeed of great excellence, and even the names of the cities indicate. Hey, y'all whispering so loud. They whispering, but they whispering loud. Like you might as well be talking regularly. Bless you. The land in which these tribes had selected was indeed of great excellence, even as the names of the cities indicate. One was called Atara, garland with fruits; a second, Dibon, flowing with honey; a third, Jazer, help, for its possession was great help to those who owned it. These other cities in this region that were named on account of the excellence of the soil were Nimrah, gaily colored, for the ground of this city was gaily colored with fruits; Sebam, perfume, whose fruits scatter a fragrance like perfume; and Nebo, produce. So it's saying the name and then it's giving the definition of what it means afterwards. So Nebo, produce, because it was distinguished for its excellent product. This last mentioned city, like Baal Meon, did not retain its name when it passed into Israel's possession, for they wanted to have not cities that bore names of idols. Therefore, they gave them new names. Many other towns as well received a new name from the Israelites, just as Nobah gave his own name to the city of Kenath that they had gained by arms, hoping in this way to immortalize his name, for he had no children. His name was, however, not preserved in this way, for after the death of the conqueror, the old name of Kenath returned again. It was among the possessions of these 2.5 tribes that Moses, shortly before his death, founded the cities of refuge. Moses, in his instance, illustrates the proverb, whoever loves pious deeds never has enough of them. Although Yahuwah had told Moses that he would never cross to the other side of the Jordan, still he insisted upon at least determining the site for the asylum in the region of the east of Jordan. Yahuwah gave Moses the law concerning the cities of refuge in accordance with Israel's wish. For the people said to Yahuwah, Lord of the world, thou didst promise us a long course of life as a reward for fulfilling the commandments. But supposing now that a man has slain another unintentionally, and the avenger of blood slays him, he will die before his time. Yahuwah then said to Moses, as truly as thou livest, they speak wisely. Appoint therefore several cities for cities of refuge, that the manslayer might flee thither, which slayeth his neighbor unawares. Moses greatly rejoiced at this statute, and instantly set about its execution. And he that hath tasted of food knoweth its flavor. And Moses, who had erstwhile been obliged to flee on account of having slain an Egyptian, knew the feelings of the man who is pursued on account of manslaughter that he had committed unawares. Moses' death irrevocably doomed. When Yahuwah in wrath against Moses and Aaron vowed, therefore ye shall not bring this assembly into the land which I have given them, Moses forbore to implore Yahuwah to do away with this sentence, acting in accordance with the precept, do not attempt to dissolve thy neighbor's vow in the moment he hath made it. Moses waited 40 years before he approached Yahuwah with a request to permit him to enter the promised land with Israel. This occurred when he had received Yahuwah's command to appoint Joshua as his successor, for he now perceived that Yahuwah had actually resolved to execute his sentence. For although Yahuwah had 10 times decreed that Moses was to die in the desert, still Moses had not troubled much about it. Even when the resolution had been sealed in the heavenly court, he thought, how often did Israel sin? And yet when I prayed for them, he annulled the punishment he had decreed. What, babe?
Why you looking at me like that?
Because you come down here staring at me like you want to say something.
You scared because of what I'm saying.
I don't know what you're going to say. How often did Israel sin? And yet when I prayed for them, he annulled the punishment he had decreed. Surely Yahuwah should accept my prayer if I, a man who never sinned, should pray to him. Moses had also a special reason for assuming that Yahuwah had changed his determination concerning him and would not permit him to enter the promised land. For he had been permitted to enter part of Palestine laying on this side of the Jordan, the land of Sihon and of Og. And from this he reasoned that Yahuwah had not irrevocably decreed punishment for him, and that it might therefore now be called he was strengthened, and that it might therefore now be recalled. He was strengthened in this assumption by the fact that after the conquest of the East Jordanic region, Yahuwah revealed to him the instructions that said how the land was to be divided. And it seemed to him as if he were in person to carry out these instructions. He was, however, mistaken. For shortly after these laws had been revealed to him, Yahuwah informed him that he was to look upon the promised land from Mount Abarim, as he should never enter it. When Yahuwah saw that Moses was not much concerned about the impending punishment, he sealed the command he had issued against him and swore by his ineffable name that Moses should not march into the land. Moses therefore put on sackcloth, threw himself in ashes, and prayed not less than 1,500 prayers for the annulment of divine resolve against him. He drew a circle about himself, stood in the center of it, and said, I will not move from this spot until judgment have been suspended. Heaven and earth, as well as all forms of creation, trembled and said, perhaps it is Yahuwah's wish to destroy this world. Hold on. Look. Let me go back. Look. When Yahuwah saw that Moses was not much concerned about the impending punishment, he sealed the command he had issued against him and swore by his ineffable name that Moses should not march into the land. Therefore, Moses put upon sackcloth, threw himself upon the ashes, and prayed not less than 1,500 prayers for the annulment of the divine resolve against him. He drew a circle about himself, stood in the center of it, and said, I will not move from this spot until judgment shall have been suspended. Heaven and earth, as well as all forms of creation, trembled and said, perhaps it is Yahuwah's wish to destroy this world, to create a new universe. But a voice sounded from heaven and said, Yahuwah's wish to destroy the world has not yet come. The commotion in nature is due to this, that in Yahuwah's hand is the soul of all living things and the spirit of all flesh, even the spirit of the man Moses, whose end is not at hand. Yahuwah then bade them proclaim in heaven and in all the celestial courts of justice that they should not accept Moses' prayers, and that no angel was to carry Moses' prayer to him, because Moses' doom of death had been sealed by him. Yahuwah quickly called before him the angel Achraziel, who was the celestial herald, and bade him proclaim the following in heaven: descend at once and lock every single gate in heaven, that Moses' prayer may not ascend into it. Then at Moses' prayer trembled heaven and earth, all the foundations thereof, and the creatures therein, for his prayer was like a sword, and slashed and rends, and can in no wise be, hold on. Then at Moses' prayer trembled heaven and earth, all the foundations thereof, and the creatures therein, for his prayer was like a sword that slashed and rends, and can in no wise be parried. For in it was the power of the ineffable name that Moses had learned from his teacher Zagzagel, the teacher and scribe of the celestial beings. But when the Galgalim and Seraphim saw that Yahuwah did not accept Moses' prayer, and without taking consideration of him, did not grant his prayer for long life, they all opened their mouths, saying, praise be the glory of Yahuwah from its place, for there is no injustice before him, no forgetfulness, no respect of persons towards the small or great. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna read this next section. We just can't stop here. Ooh. Okay. Oh, man. Okay. I'm gonna just go for it, y'all. If y'all gotta go ahead and go. Y'all just gonna have to pick it up. I just want to read this next section, but we're gonna have to stop after this section because it's gonna probably take me about 10 minutes to read this next section, but it's gonna cut it off right there because it's gonna keep going on about Moses trying to live. So, okay, listen. Moses' prayer for suspension of judgment. Moses began his long but fruitless prayer by saying, Lord of the world, consider how much I had to bear. They became of thy. I suffered with them. Shall I not then take part in their rejoicing? Look thou, by forbidding me to enter the promised land, thou givest the lie to thy Torah. For it says, in his day thou shalt give the laborer his hire. Where then is my hire for the 40 years, during which I labored for the sake of thy children, and for their sake suffered much sorrow in Egypt, in the desert, and at the giving of the Torah and the commandments. With them I suffered pain. Shall not I behold their good fortune as well? But thou tellest me that I may not cross the Jordan. All the time that we were in the desert, I could not sit quietly in the academy, teaching and pronouncing judgment, but not that I should be able to do so. Thou tellest me that I may not. He continued, may the mercy in thee precede thy justice, so that my prayer may be answered. For I will know that there is no mercy and justice, that thou thyself did tell me when I asked thee how thou did conduct the world. I owe nothing to any creature, and what do I do? And what I do for them is a free gift on my part. Therefore, as a free gift, grant now my prayer to me. Thou thyself did point out to me that it is thy desire that people should pray to thee to counsel punishment that was laid upon them. When Israel committed that terrible sin, the worship of the golden calf, thou didst say to me, let me alone that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven. I then thought, who can restrain Yahuwah that he should say, let me? It is plain that he desires me to pray for his children. And I prayed, and I was answered. The prayer of the individual for the community was answered, but not so the prayer of the community for the one individual. Is it because I called Israel rebels? But in this I only followed thy example, for thou did too call them sons of rebellion. Thou did call me as well as Leviathan thy servant. I sent up prayers to thee, and Leviathan likewise, and did him thou answer. For thou made a covenant with him that thou keepest, but the covenant that thou madest with me thou breakest. For thou didst say, die in the mount, whither thou go up. In the Torah, thy words are, if the servant shall plainly say, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him in unto the judges, and he shall serve him forever. I implore thee now, hear my cry, O God, attend unto my prayer. Thou art not in the position of a judge of flesh and blood, who, when granting a prayer, has to consider that he might be compelled by his superior to repeal his answer. Thou can do what thou wilt, for where on earth or in heaven is there one so mighty that he can do such a deed as thine in Egypt, or who can perform such mighty deeds as thou did at the Red Sea? I pray thee, therefore, let me behold the land that in spite of the slander of the spies I praise, in Jerusalem and the temple also. When, in answer to the proposition, thou madest me to go into Egypt and to deliver Israel, I said, I cannot do it, for I made a vow to Jethro never to leave him. Thou did release me from that vow. O Lord of the world, as then thou did absolve me of my vow, saying, go, return into Egypt, so do thou now absolve thyself from thy vow, and permit me to enter the land of Israel. Then Yahuwah answered, thou hast a master to absolve thee from thy vow, but I have no master. Moses then said, thy judgment against me reads that I shall not, as the king, enter the promised land. For to me and to Aaron thou didst say, ye shall not bring the assembly into the land which I have given them. Permit me then at least to enter it as a common citizen. That, said Yahuwah, is impossible. The king shall not enter it degraded to the rank of a common citizen. Well then, said Moses, if I may not even go into the land as a common citizen, at least let me enter into the promised land by the Panias grotto that runs from the east bank to the west bank of the Jordan. But this request too, Yahuwah denied him, saying, thou shalt not go from this bank of the Jordan River to the other. If this request also is to be denied me, begged Moses, grant me at least that after my death my bones may be carried to the other side of the Jordan. But Yahuwah said, nay, not even thy bones shall cross the Jordan. O Lord of the world, Moses exclaimed, If Joseph's bones were permitted to be carried into the promised land, why not mine? Yahuwah replied, whosoever acknowledges his country shall be buried therein. But whosoever does not acknowledge his country shall not be buried therein. Joseph pledged allegiance to his country when he said, for indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and therefore also does he deserve to have his bones brought to the land of Israel. But thou did in silence hear the daughters of Jethro say to their father, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hands of the shepherds, without correcting them by saying, I am a Hebrew. Oh, y'all remember that? I remember that. Moses, you did do that. You didn't correct them. Look, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hands of the shepherds without correcting them by saying, I am a Hebrew, and therefore shall not even thy bones be brought into the land of Israel. Moses furthermore said to Yahuwah, O Lord of the world, with the word, behold, did I begin thy praise, saying, behold, the heaven and the heaven of heavens is Yahuwah's, and with that very world, hold on. Moses furthermore said to Yahuwah, O Lord of the world, with the word, behold, did I begin thy praise, saying, behold, the heaven and the heaven of heavens is Yahuwah's, and with that very world, behold, dost thou seal my death, saying, behold, thy days approach that thou must die. Yahuwah replied to this, a wicked man in his envy sees only the prophets, but not the expenditures of his neighbor. Dost thou not recall that when I wanted to send thee to Egypt, thou didst also decline my request with the word behold, saying, behold, they will not believe me. Therefore did I say, behold, thy days approach that thou must die. Moses probably saying right there, man, why you keep bringing up old stuff? Everything Moses say, you got to come back for it. No, but remember you did this? Look, hold on. Dost thou not recall that when I wanted to send thee to Egypt, thou didst also decline my request with the word behold, saying, behold, they will not believe me. Therefore did I say, behold, thy days approach that thou must die. As furthermore, Yahuwah continued, thou didst say to the sons of Levi when they asked thy forgiveness, enough, ye take too much upon ye sons of Levi, so too shall I answer thy prayer for forgiveness. Let it suffice thee. Speak no more unto me of this matter. O Lord of the world. Again, you was like, that's enough. Don't say nothing else to me about this. I already said you ain't going in. No, don't ask me again. Here go Moses. O Lord of the world. Again pleaded Moses. Wilt thou not recall the time when thou didst say to me, come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt? Let them be led by me into their land, as I led them out of the land of bondage. But to this also Yahuwah found a reply. Moses, wilt not thou recall the time when thou didst say to me, O my Lord, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him who thou wilt send? With the measure that a man uses shall measure be given to him. I announce death to thee with the word behold, saying, behold, thy days approach when thou must die, because I wanted to point out to thee that thou diest only because thou art a descendant of Adam, upon whose sons I pronounce death with the word behold, saying to the angels, behold, the man is become one of us to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand to also take of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Then Moses then said, O Lord of the world, to the first man did thou give a command that could easily be obeyed, and yet he disobeyed it, and thereby merited death. But I have not transgressed any of thy commandments. Yahuwah, behold, Abraham also, who sanctified my name in the world, died. Moses, Yea, but from Abraham issued Ishmael, whose descendants aroused thy anger. Yahuwah. Isaac also, who laid his neck upon the altar to be offered as a sacrifice to me, died. Moses. But from Isaac issued Esau, who would destroy the temple and burn thy house. Yahuwah. From Jacob issued 12 tribes that did not anger me, and he died. Moses. But he did not ascend into heaven. His feet did not tread the clouds. Thou did not speak with him face to face, and he did not receive the Torah out of thy hand. Yahuwah, let it suffice thee. Speak no more unto me of this matter. Speak not many words, for only a fool multiplieth words. Moses, O Lord of the world, future generations will perchance say, had not Yahuwah found evil in Moses, he would not have taken him out of the world. Yahuwah, I have already written in my Torah, and there hath not arisen since a prophet in Israel like unto Moses. Moses, future generations will perhaps say that I had probably acted accordance with thy will in my youth, while I was active as a prophet, but that in my old age, when my prophetic activity ceased, I no longer did thy will. Moses, Lord of the world, let me, I pray, enter into the land, live there 2 or 3 years, and then die. Yahuwah, I have resolved that thou shalt not go there. Moses, if I may not enter it in my lifetime, let me reach it after my death. Yahuwah, nay, neither dead nor alive shall go into the land. Moses, why is this wrath against me, Yahuwah? Because you have not sanctified me in the midst of the children of Israel. Moses, with all thy creatures dost thou deal according to thy quality of mercy, forgiving them their sin once, twice, and thrice. But me, thou wilt not forgive me even one single sin. Yahuwah, outside of this sin of which thou art aware, thou hast committed 6 other sins which I have not until now reproached thee. At the first, when I appeared unto thee, thou didst say, O Lord, O my Lord, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him whom thou wast send, and did refuse to obey my command to go to Egypt. Secondly, thou didst say, for since I came to Pharaoh to speak in thy name, he hath evil entreated his people, neither hath thou delivered thy people at all. Accuse me thereby of having only harmed Israel instead of aiding them. Thirdly, didst thou say, if these men die the common death of all men, then Yahuwah has not sent me, so that thou did arouse the doubts among Israel as if thou were really my ambassador? Fourthly, oh, he naming them out. Moses probably like, oh shoot. Fourthly, didst thou say, but if Yahuwah make a new thing, doubting if Yahuwah could do so? Fifth, didst thou say to Israel, hear now, you rebels, and in this way did insult my children? Sixthly, didst thou say, and behold, ye are risen up in your father's stead, an increase of sinful men, where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Israel's fathers, perchance sinful men, that thou dost address their children? Moses, I only followed thy example, for thou too did say the censures of these sinners, Yahuwah, but I did not characterize their fathers as sinners. Moses, O Lord of the world, how often did Israel sin before thee, and when I begged and implored mercy for them, thou forgavest them. But me thou wilt not forgive. For my sake thou forgavest the sins of 60 myriads, and not thou wilt forgive my sin. Yahuwah, the punishment that is laid upon the community is different from the punishment that is laid upon the individual. For I am not so severe in my treatment of the community as I am in dealing with the individual. But know, furthermore, that until now fate had been in thy power, but now fate is no longer in thy power. Moses, O Lord of the world,
Rise up from the throne of justice and seat thyself upon the throne of mercy, so that in mercy thou mayest grant me life, during which I may atone for my sins by suffering that thou shalt bring upon me. Hand me not over to the sword of the angel of death. If thou wilt grant my prayer, then shall I sound thy praises in all the inhabitants of the earth. I do not wish to die, but live and declare the works of Yahuwah. Yahuwah replied, This is the gate of Yahuwah. The righteous shall enter into it. This is the gate into which the righteous must enter, as well as other creatures, for death had been decreed for man since the beginning of the world. Moses, however, continued to importune Yahuwah, saying, With justice and with mercy thou hast created the world and mankind. May mercy now conquer justice. In my youth thou did begin by showing me thy power in the bush of thorns, and now in my old age I beseech thee, treat me not as an earthly king treats his servant. When a king of flesh and blood had a servant, he loves him as long as he is young and strong, but casts him off when he is grown old. But thou cast me not off in the time of old age. Thou didst show thy power at the revelations of the 10 Commandments, and thy strong hand in the 10 plagues that thou did bring upon Egypt. Thou did create everything, and in thy hand doth it lie to kill and give life. There is none who can do these works, nor is there strength like thine in the future world. Let me then proclaim thy majesty to the coming generations, and tell them that through me thou did clave the Red Sea and give the Torah to Israel, that throughout 40 years thou did cause manna to rain from heaven for Israel, and water to rise from the well. For Moses thought that if his life were spared, he should be able everlastingly to restrain Israel from sin and to hold them forever in faith to the one God. But Yahuwah said, Let it suffice thee if thy life were to be spared. Men should mistake thee and make a god of thee and worship thee. Lord of the world, Moses replied, Thou did already test me at the time when the golden calf was made, and I destroyed it. Why then should I die? God, Yahuwah. Every time I see God, I replace it with his name. I was reading too fast. Yahuwah, whose son art thou? Moses, Amram's son, Yahuwah. And whose son was Amram? Moses, Ishar's son, Yahuwah. And whose son was he? Moses, Kohath's son, Yahuwah. And whose son was he? Moses, Levi's son, Yahuwah. And from whom did all of these descend? Moses, from Adam, Yahuwah. Was the life of any of these spared? Moses, they all died. Yahuwah, and thou wishest to live on. Moses, Lord of the world, Adam stole the forbidden fruit and ate of it. And it was on this account that thou did punish him with death. But did I ever steal aught from thee? Thou thyself did write of me, my servant Moses, who is faithful in all mine house. Yahuwah, art thou worthier than Noah? Moses, yes. I keep kicking his cord down. He said, Art thou worthier than Noah? He said, Yes. Look, hold on. Wait a minute. Turn my decorates out from that. Hold on. Look. Let me go back. Okay. Yahuwah, art thou worthier than Noah? Moses, yes. When thou sendest the flood over his generation, he did not beg thy mercy for them. But I did say to thee, But I did say to thee, Yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book which thou hast written. Yahuwah, was it I perchance that counseled thee to slay the Egyptian? Moses, thou didst slay all the firstborn of Egypt, and I shall die on the account of one single Egyptian that I slew? Yahuwah, art thou perchance my equal? I slay and I restore to life, But canst thou perchance revive the dead? Oh, yeah, y'all. And the pause is right here, and it's going to keep going on. But we're already an hour and 33 minutes, so we're going to pause right here, y'all. We're going to pick this up. I'll kind of recap a little bit tomorrow, and we'll pick it up from here. But y'all can go ahead and read ahead if y'all want to. It's really, really good. Okay, yeah, it's going to keep going through all of this. And then chapter 7 starts, and it goes into the last days of Moses. Oh, my gosh, y'all just get so good. I wish I could just keep going, but for the sake of time, we have to stop today. So that was the Legends of the Jews. We started at page 365, and we ended here on page 372. We read a lot of pages. All right, y'all. So we'll pick that back up tomorrow. Like I said, go ahead and read ahead. But if you want to wait in suspense with us, you just wait till the morning. We'll pick it back up right here. All right, y'all. We read Joshua 13, 14, and 15. It is Saturday, March the 6th, 2021, day 94 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 763. And that is without the regular weekly Sabbath days and the feast day Sabbath days added along into the count. All right, beautiful people. So let's go ahead and read the blessing. Which is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is what? The Nazarite vow. It's the first 21 verses. All right. So, see all of it. Okay. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise, ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Okay. Now let's go back. Just double check. I don't see any questions over here on YouTube. Oh, yeah, Trina. Trina said, man, Moses just wants to go into the promised land. I know, right? When I was first listening to it, I was like, man, I'm sitting like you know how you watch a movie, you sitting on the edge, and you're going back and forth, when you watching a conversation with popcorn, going back and forth. Like Moses, he was not giving up. You would say, look, Moses, stop. I'm done with this conversation now. Go ahead, get out of here now. Moses, but Lord of the world, hold on, but wait a minute. He said, but you getting on me about killing one Egyptian. You destroyed all of Egypt. He said, are you perchance my equal? He said, I kill and I can raise to life. Can you raise people back to life? Yeah, no. Moses, I don't want to hear no more of this. Go ahead and get out of here now. All right. Moses and King Dawid with Abraham are the only flesh I can recall talking to the Most High like this. All praises to the Most High, Yahuwah, for his wisdom and mercy. Great lesson today. Yeah, I know, right? Okay, y'all. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. My entire household is up now. And before they start getting on 10, I'm going ahead and end this today. So I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, beautiful people. Love y'all. See y'all in the morning. Peace.
Mommy? Mom.
Yes, baby.